So when asked, will I preserve and protect a woman's right to choose, I make an unequivocal answer, yes.
No, I'm saying I changed my mind, and you can look at my record as governor, and you can see in my record as governor that I have consistently been pro-life.
I believe that abortion should be safe and legal in this country. I have since the time that my mom took that position when she ran in 1970 as a U.S. Senate candidate. I believe that since Roe v. Wade has been the law for 20 years, that we should sustain and support it. And I sustain and support that law.
I will be a pro-life president. I'll appoint.
So when I ran for office, I was effectively pro-choice. I didn't call myself pro-choice, but I said I...
Just like I've been a pro-life governor.
I am pro-choice. I believe in Roe versus Wade, and for me, the goal right now should be reduce the number of abortions, because the fact is that although we've had a president who's opposed to abortion over the last 8 years, abortions have not gone down.
Both aim to provide coverage for people who have no insurance or have pre-existing conditions. Both prohibit insurance companies from dropping coverage for paying customers, even if illness requires costly coverage. Each adds tax incentives and penalties to encourage employers to provide healthcare coverage. Both plans establish insurance exchanges where people can shop for policies and expand Medicaid coverage to help cover the poor. And both include the controversial individual mandate that imposes tax penalties on people who don't sign up for any coverage.
Have you supported in the past an individual mandate?
I absolutely did with the Heritage Foundation.
You did support an individual mandate?
Sir.
Oh, okay, that's what I'm saying. We got the idea from you and the Heritage Foundation.
In fact, many architects of the Massachusetts law have been working as consultants to craft and implement the federal law. Romney's plan, estimated at $8.5 billion, is subsidized by the federal government. The federal plan doesn't have a safety net if it exceeds the projected $875 billion cost over 10 years. Instead, it is funded primarily through cuts in scheduled spending increases and new taxes. And the nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office estimates that Obama's plan will reduce the deficit by $118 billion over 10 years if Congress enacts the bill's spending cuts.
And at the time, by the way, I crafted the plan. In the last campaign, I was asked, is this something that you would have the whole nation do? And I said, no. This is something that was crafted for Massachusetts. It would be wrong to adopt this as a nation.
We asked the Romney campaign, where specifically does the governor stand on SB 1070? Does he support it with reservations, or oppose it? Here's the answer we got. Quote, Governor Romney supports the right of states to craft laws that assist the federal government in enforcing immigration laws, particularly when the federal government has failed in its duty to enforce those laws. What about the candidate's recent record, though? Does that shed any light on where he really stands? Well, quote, we need more conservative leaders like Chris willing to stand up for the rule of law. With Chris on the team, I look forward to working with him to take forceful steps to curtail illegal immigration and to support states like South Carolina and Arizona that are stepping forward to address this problem. But just after losing South Carolina, just before the primary in Florida, which has a much larger Latino population, there was a different tone. Listen.
Well, the answer is self-deportation, which is people decide that they can do better by going home because they can't find work here because they don't have legal documentation to allow them to work here. And so we're not going to round people up.
Now, it's just as hard to nail down other clues to where exactly Romney stands on this. In this video, he's campaigning with Florida's Cuban-American Senator Marco Rubio, who's a potential running mate, and supports a modified version of the so-called DREAM Act. The question is, what's Romney's take on that?
The question is, if I were elected and Congress were to pass the DREAM Act, would I veto it? And the answer is yes.
He restated his commitment to securing the border with Mexico, promised an immigration plan of his own, but refused to give any specifics.
I anticipate before the November election we'll be laying out a whole series of policies that relate to immigration. I've spoken about the need to have a visa system that's right-sized for the needs of our employment community. And so how we adjust our visa program to make it fit the needs of our country is something I'll be speaking about down the road, but I don't have anything for you on that at this stage.
So at the end of the day, the question remains, where does he really stand?
I believe as strongly as ever that we should take on illegal immigration. That's why my administration has put more boots on the border than ever before. That's why there are fewer illegal crossings than when I took office. We should be working on comprehensive immigration reform right now. But if election year politics keeps Congress from acting on a comprehensive plan, let's at least agree to stop expelling responsible young people who want to staff our labs, start new businesses, defend this country. Send me a law that gives them the chance to earn their citizenship. I will sign it right away.
I'm in favor of the death penalty. I believe the death penalty deters certain forms of heinous, violent crime, and therefore I favor it. For that reason, simple and alone.
Well, I believe that the death penalty is appropriate in certain circumstances. There are extraordinarily heinous crimes, terrorism, the harm of children, in which it may be appropriate.
We do have tough gun laws in Massachusetts. I support them. I won't chip away at them. I've been pro-gun and continue to be pro-gun.
I don't line up 100% with the NRA. I don't see eye to eye with the NRA in every issue.
But it didn't take me very long to understand that there are millions and millions of people who care very deeply about their constitutional right to bear arms.
As a general principle, I believe that the Constitution confers an individual right to bear arms. But just because you have an individual right does not mean that the state or local government can't constrain the exercise of that right.
Mitt Romney is in the top 1% of the top 1% with an income of over $20 million a year, and yet he's paying taxes at the same rate as a single school teacher who's making $54,000 a year.
I joked to Jay Leno. He said, why don't you raise my taxes? I said, Jay, I'm happy to raise your taxes. That's just fine with me, but I don't want to raise taxes on job creators, on businesses, entrepreneurs, and innovators.
Will you do for Social Security what Ronald Reagan did in 1983?
Raise taxes. I'm not going to raise taxes.
In the last decade, the average income of the bottom 90% of all working Americans actually declined. Meanwhile, the top 1% saw their income rise by an average of more than $250,000 each. That's who needs to pay less taxes? They want to give people like me a $200,000 tax cut that's paid for by asking 33 seniors each to pay $6,000 more in health costs. That's not right. And it's not going to happen as long as I'm president.
You're a veteran, Vietnam veteran.
Yes,
Wow.
I have a question for you.
Yeah, where did you serve, by the way?
I served in the Army in 1966, 1967. New Hampshire right now has some legislation kicking around about repeal for the same-sex marriage.
Yes.
And all I need is a yes or a no.
Okay.
Do you support?
I support
The
repealing.
repeal?
I support the repeal of the New Hampshire law. I believe marriage is between a man and a woman.
Define marriage.
I believe that marriage is the union between a man and a woman.
Would you support a constitutional amendment with that definition?
No, I would not. I am not somebody who promotes same-sex marriage, but I do believe in civil unions. I do believe that for gay partners to want to visit each other in a hospital, for the state to say, you know what, that's all right. I don't think in any way inhibits my core beliefs about what marriage are. I can afford those civil rights to others even if I have a different perspective or a different view.
I believe, based on what I read, that the world is getting warmer. And number two, I believe that humans contribute to that. So the idea of America spending massive amounts, trillions of dollars to somehow stop global warming is not a great idea.
And so I think it's important for us to reduce our emissions of pollutants and greenhouse gases that may well be significant contributors to the climate change and the global warming that you're seeing.
Climate change and our dependence on foreign oil, if left unaddressed, will continue to weaken our economy and threaten our national security. Few challenges facing America and the world are more urgent than combating climate change. The science is beyond dispute and the facts are clear.
Look at his energy policy.
We'll invest $15 billion each year to catalyze private sector efforts to build a clean energy future.
What is his energy policy? It's apparently to make it hard to get coal out of the ground with more regulations, hard to use it, hard to take advantage of our oil resources, makes it harder to get the gas out of the ground. And as a result, why he's happy with wind and solar. We all like wind and solar, but you can't drive a car with a windmill on it. And my plan is that we're going to get America finally energy secure by taking advantage of our coal, our oil, our gas, and bringing in that Keystone pipeline from Canada.
If you become president and a state chooses to end its prohibition of marijuana during your term, how will you respond?
I believe that marijuana should be illegal in our country. It is the pathway to drug usage.
I have more of a practical view than anything else. I mean, my attitude is that if it's an issue of doctors prescribing medical marijuana as a treatment for glaucoma or as a cancer treatment, I think that should be appropriate because there really is no difference between that and a doctor prescribing morphine or anything else. What I'm not going to be doing is using Justice Department resources to try to circumvent state laws on this issue.
I mean, seriously, what is the concern? We will deplete the nation's Funyun supply?
Pressure to put on weight is one of the reasons we've got the red sweatsuits. There's no way we couldn't. We're creeping between the bullfrogs.
Bad lip reading, best new thing in the world.
I was happy, and then your sister threw a sea fish at my TV. Hey, how are you? Cookies. Can I take one? Hey, thank you for the bench. Don't commit suicide. I will force spiders and badgers on the enemy and get them all to shut up. If Madonna married a real giant, that would be good. At least I think it would. Wait, no, it wouldn't, because never mind. Happy stepchild. I told you to check it out. Oh, hey, this is for the cow. In America, we have a song. Ding dong lamawani jumping with a nice pig. She thinks I'm going in. I'm very good company. Be sure the pizza has an old fly in it. I didn't spend money on robotic things. I spend money on video games. We play pole position. It'd go beep. We'd go fast around the track. Man, it was a good game. We got Winona Ryder out there pissing off people with a guitar. They're a bunch of punks. Amy left your party, and I'm leaving at 3 to pick apples. Are you a math dork? Had pork chops and beans and put it in the freezer, and it rotted after a month. Yo mama's pudgy. Face it. I'm a gremlin. I'm leaving the party. Now I want everyone to stuff the ice chest. Thank you.